Today, we are talking about the lunar eclipse slash full moon on June 5th, 2020, and what it has in store for you. Hi, everyone. I'm Donna Stellhorn. I do videos on astrology and Feng Shui, and today we are talking about the lunar eclipse slash full moon for June 5th, 2020. We're going to be covering an overview, and then I'll be going sign by sign to talk about what's coming up for you. There will be timestamps in the description box below if you want to jump to your sign. And before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Please hit the subscribe button. And if you like videos like this, hit the thumbs up button. It really helps out the channel. There's a lot to cover, so I want to just jump in. Let's take a look at the overview of the chart. As we can see, this lunar eclipse is at 15 degrees of Sagittarius, opposing the sun at 15 degrees of Gemini. Of course, they have to be in opposition. That's what a full moon is. That's what an eclipse is. I'll slip in a graphic here of just showing what astronomically this looks like. But for us, this is our full moon and an eclipse. And eclipses bring big change. Now, you might be saying to me, oh, Donna, I have already been through a lot of change. But actually, this is us being faced with the idea of whether we're going to continue the changes that we've started to make, or if we are scrambling trying to get back to the way things were. And a little hint, when there's eclipses involved, the door to go backwards is usually closed. So this is about us moving forward, and there's so many opportunities coming up. There's so many options and different directions that we can go. There's a lot of hopeful things to talk about. So at first, let's just look at the sun at 15 degrees of Gemini, which actually happens to be a fixed star called Rigel. So here's the information that I found about that. So Rigel's a double bluish white star situated on the left foot of Orion. Now, back when Ptolemy and Lilly were writing about this fixed star, they deemed it as a Jupiter-Saturn influence, which is very strong for business, very strong for military. It says that there is expansion, but also a structure in place for success. So they were counting it as a pretty good star. Yay. But over time, there has been some tempering of what astrologers have read this star as through their experiences as they have observed out in the world and with their individual clients. And so with the connection to the sun, it says bold, courageous, insolent, unruly temper, hasty actions, many enemies, great fortune, and military success. And so how this translates is that you have opportunities, but hasty action could happen, that you may be taking bold action, maybe you are taking courageous action, but you don't want to take action just to do something. You don't want to just rush into traffic. In other words, you want to make sure that from a military standpoint that this is something you've considered, that it's planned out, and that way when it's time for the bold action, you are going to be fine. So how that would translate into our lives is that we stop for 5 minutes and plan something, that we don't just jump on and you know, to our video conference call without our notes, without having considered it. And from a spiritual standpoint, it is taking some time every morning to visualize how you would like the day to go. You know, perhaps this is part of your daily meditation, or maybe you do something like the 5-minute journal, but it is something where you are projecting out into the universe your requests for how things will go. And when you do that, things go substantially better. So this fixed star is here to remind us of that. Now, the moon at 15 degrees of Sagittarius is also a fixed star, and that's fixed star is called Sabik. So, and this is a pale yellow star situated on the left knee of oh goodness, I'm going to mess this up. Openix. All right, I'm not even going to try that. I'm just going to spell that one. Now, according to Ptolemy, way back, this was a Saturn-Venus influence that caused wastefulness, loss of energy, and even as much as evil deeds. Now, that means that this is not such a good star because Saturn is restriction and blocks, and Venus is what we want. And so we are blocked from a lot of things that we want. Now, they say that with the influence of the moon, it is about secret jealousy, trouble through relatives, success, but not necessarily wealth. And there is success in growing things, but it's slow because, you know, things take time to grow. Now, when we look at that, you know, it is in this house of communication and actually even in government. So some secrets may be revealed. Maybe you are, you know, investigating, you know, like the origin of the virus or, you know, what's going on in the government and things like that. And some of that is okay, but it is really important to pay attention to your own life and your direction, your spiritual direction, because it's moon in Sag, and then also your direction in general, because you do have to do the practical stuff. So with that in mind, this is a very intense combination right there. And from what I'm reading and what I have studied in the past, I would suggest that, you know, we do know that the virus is not done with us yet. It's still raging through the world. And so it's just a good idea, even if you are getting out there in the world now, to stay stocked up on supplies, to make sure that if you do need, again, to shelter in place, that you have what you need, that you don't have to rush out at the last minute and be faced with empty shelves or things like that. And it is really a good idea to also look at income producing opportunities that you can do at home. Now, you know, you might be, you know, a person who really needs to connect with people, and that's great, because there are going to be so many of us who need help with that connecting, but it may just not be face to face yet for a little while. Now, when we look at our chart here, the thing, of course, that jumps out at me is Mars is at 15 degrees of Pisces, and this forms a T-square. Now, T-squares are a configuration where a lot of pressure is put on the Mars, and this is Mars in Pisces. So this T-square is about bringing fruition to ideals and wishes, a realization of joint ventures, a desire to create partnerships, and it gives you the power to establish yourself in the world. Now, this T-square also is about both a strive for independence and yet creating partnerships. And so what I believe that means is that we want to strive for independence in the sense that we don't have to, you know, rush to the grocery store when we're told to shelter in place. But on the other hand, that we do reach out to our neighbors, that we do reach out to family and friends and check in on them and see how things are going, that we unite as spiritual communities so that we can help each other. You know, perhaps you know people who don't yet still know how to get onto a Zoom conference call, or maybe you know, you have people who they want to connect on social media, but they're not sure, and you can help them out with that. Now, it says prosperity comes through harmonious cooperation. We need to be both independent and cooperative. And the rest of it is just what I said. So this is a T-square that is interesting because the position of it does show us continuing to work mostly behind the scenes. That is, that we are not out in the world so much. The moon is elevated, and that says that our voices are being heard, but the sun is below the horizon and the Mars is in the 12th house, and so maybe we're not as seen for this month. And again, this is an eclipse, so eclipses can actually last 4 months. Now, of course, those of you who, spotted this already, it's Mars conjunct Neptune in Pisces. And so we do have increased spread of the virus because viruses are generally Pisces, and Mars is about this action happening. So we do see spread of the virus, and yet it's in the 12th house, and so it may not be registering yet. When we take a look at the solar eclipse that is later in June, and then the second lunar eclipse that is July 5th, then we will talk more about when things will be out, when we'll see numbers, etc. So then we have here Venus conjunct the Sun, and it is squaring the Mars and opposing the Moon. Now, whenever you have Venus opposed Moon, it always reminds me of that Rolling Stones song, you don't always get what you want, but you get what you need, because Venus is what you want and the Moon is what you need. So, and being in opposition, you get one or the other. And so there are some trade-offs that have to happen. But in any sort of give take or opposition, there is a compromise point. And, that compromise point, on a child's plate might be, you eat your green beans and then you get your ice cream, and that's the compromise. So there's ways to find a compromise point in your life where you can get both your wants and your needs met. But I think what's most significant is Venus square Mars. And Venus square Mars is a highly charged sexual, sexy sort of aspect where we're wanting to connect for that purpose. And so we might see an increase of use of online dating sites and Tinder and people getting together for that sort of purpose, because that's going on. If you are looking for a relationship, this is positive energy for that. Although the Mars is in the 12th, it seems like it is more secret or more of a liaison, more of getting together under the cover of darkness. It is not there out where everybody is seeing it. Let's talk about how many planets are retrograde. We have Pluto retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, Saturn retrograde, Venus retrograde, and Mercury will be going retrograde. So Mercury goes retrograde on June 17th, and it will be retrograde to July 12th. And so this is a lot of retrograde energy. Venus, though, will be going direct on June 24th. Now, Venus retrograde is not fun because it means that you want something, you get that thing, and you're disappointed. You rethink or redo or return whatever it is that you've gotten. This can mean it was something that you ordered before Venus went retrograde, but anything that you're doing now, you could get disappointed by, including all those liaisons I was talking about. So that means that if you're thinking of hooking up with somebody, think twice, because in the morning you may not be so happy you did that. The Venus retrograde is rather judgmental, and it can be judgmental in a good way, where you are looking at what it is you have been doing in your life, what it is you've been doing for the last few weeks, and making a judgment in the sense of, do I still want to continue doing this? Not a judgment where you get down on yourself, but a judgment to say, what do I want to do going forward now that I have this experience? So Venus rules the house of relationship and the house of money in this chart. So, of course, love and money, that's what Venus is good at anyway. So, but it is about rethinking those things. How am I relating to people, and how am I handling my money? How am I handling the sources of income, and how am I handling the outflow? We'll talk about more of that for individual signs at the end of, or at least the second half of this video. Now, we still have the energy of Saturn, which is now retrograde and which will be entering Capricorn on July 1st. We'll talk about that more when we do the solar eclipse video. But it is still making that inconjunct to the North Node. So the difference is Saturn is like your career or how others respect you. And your North Node is your life path. That's the direction you're going so that you can grow, which may or may not make you any money. So presumably your career makes you money, and your life path, if you're very lucky, is the same as your career. But for most of us, it is not the same, especially now because Saturn is doing an inconjunct to North Node. So it does indicate that what we're needing to do may not be or feel like our calling, but that we're making adjustments. So, you know, as an astrologer, I want to have one-on-one consultations with people, but that's not what I get to do right now. And so I need to make adjustments. And for you, you know, perhaps you're an amazing hairdresser, but you have to do hair tutorials for your clients now, or some other adjustment like that. So we're looking at how we can adjust our careers so that they then fit into our life path, basically the direction we're going. We still have the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction that is forming. This will be the second conjunction that'll happen on June 30th. Again, we'll talk about that more when we talk about the solar eclipse. But overall, the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction is about great ambition, doing something that's so huge in your life. This is not, you know, doing hair for one person. This is having a whole salon or a chain of salons, or changing how people do hair at a very core level, and taking whatever it is that you do and what you're passionate about and seeing how you can help the world with that and how it can transform something. So this is about also how we can get quite obsessed about something. And so if you find that you're quite obsessed by a TV show, a style of music, a movie, a book, or something like that, ask yourself what the message is, because there's a spiritual message, something you're searching for. You know, it's like when the pandemic started, of course, you know, everybody ran to World War Z movies and I Am Legend and all of these sort of pandemic movies. So because we're searching for, okay, this is coming up, how do I do it? And we find our information perhaps through movies. I don't know if it's a good source for finding information, but this is what we do. And so by the same token, though, now that this has calmed down and now maybe you're searching for something else. So what is the theme of what you're consuming now? Well, what is it that you're needing so much of that you're almost obsessed with it? So that's the messages that you're getting from the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. And then we have a lovely aspect of Mercury making a sextile to Uranus. And this is one of those genius opportunities, because Mercury's thinking process and Uranus is unconventional. And so when we put that together, that's the person who, you know, walks through the field and some little plants get stuck to his socks, and then he invents Velcro. So that's that, how we can think outside the box and do something different. And so again, this is more about, you know, where can we pause for a moment and ask ourselves what the real problem is, because once we get the problem, this sextile can give us the solution, but it's just a sextile. So without knowing the problem, without stating it, without pausing, we lose the aspect. It's just wasted. So we want to make sure that we do that. And it's very hard. You know, I'm going to tell you now, it's very hard to pause when we're doing so much Gemini and Sagittarius. It's hard because these are two very fast moving signs and they want to keep moving. Not to mention the T-square, which also is this, you know, like energy. So it's going to be hard to pause, but if you can do it even for a couple minutes to just say, what is the problem I'm trying to work out? And with the Mars and Pisces, you can get a lot of information from dreams. And so you could consider writing it down, placing it on your bedside table or even under your pillow. And then as you wake up, say, all right, what's my answer? So, and of course, you want to state these questions and problems in something that you can get an answer. It's not, why can I never meet anybody, or, cited something so negative, versus, writing down, maybe financial question would be, how can I make $500 a day? How can I make more money and work less hours? How can I do everything I'm doing but do it from home? And questions like this can, the universe can jump in and provide you answers using this energy. Okay, so we're going to jump now to the individual signs, and I do usually do a focus on finances and all of that. I'm going to try and throw in some additional information this time. But if you do not know your chart, you can email me for a copy of your chart, or if you look in the description box below, there is a PDF that you can get. Just click on it, and it gives you 3 different ways of getting your chart, one of which is emailing me, but still. So 2 other ways to get your chart. Aries. All right, Aries natives, you guys are doing a very strong energy of working at home or finding sources of income at home. You are working behind the scenes more than the other signs. And so there's a great deal of pressure for you to get to work. Now, there is also a lot of desire here to zone out, play video games and things like that. And that's fine, but find a way to create some income doing that, and then you'd really be set. So because Jupiter is retrograde in your house of career, there are some opportunities over the next few months for you to get your old job back or to get a similar job. You would find this by reaching out to people you know through LinkedIn or some other professional website, or just talk to your colleagues who have moved on. Your relationship energy this month is really good because your relationship is represented by that square Venus square Mars. And so if you want a relationship, if you've been looking for one, you can get one. If you're in one, it can get better. It shows an awful lot of intimate energy, so there could be some wild whoopee happening. Your creative thinking is all centered around making money, especially making money at home. So when you are brainstorming with others and when you are, asking the universe for help, this is the answers that you're going to receive are basically how to make money at home, or how to make money through homes, real estate, or things like that. Now, taking a look at your money in general, of course, you have Uranus in the 2nd house, and that's a very long transit. You're going to hear me talking about that over and over for you. That is that you are changing the way that you're handling money, changing the way you're dealing with money. And this means that you're doing it in an unconventional way, and that's good for you. So, and this could be unconventional in relation to your family or unconventional in general. It also gives you opportunities to make money from unconventional sources, because this Uranus is pulling money in from your 11th house. That's groups and organizations, connecting with your friends in different ways to make money that way. And of course, technology, looking at things you can automate. Now, your 2nd house is also pulling money from that Venus retrograde. So this is similar to what I talked to you about last month. If you had thought about doing something when we talked last month in sales, in communication, or things like that, and you didn't quite do it, you have yet another opportunity to get that happening. So there is also some for transportation. So if you drive a truck, or if you want to go make deliveries or things like that, that is also another source of income for you. Now, when we look at your investments, it's co-ruled by Pluto and Mars. Mars is in the 12th house. It's a spiritual house. So when it comes to looking for passive income sources, and that's everything from having your own business, partnering with your spouse, or doing traditional investments like stocks, or being a landlord. Any of those things, it's all in the 12th house. That means that you need to do more spiritual work about this. And that is, ask the universe to give you the information that you need to make the right decisions. That is, burn a candle in the morning for prosperity, or burn some money incense so that you can meditate on this. Do visualizations, do affirmations, do a little bit of Feng Shui so that you can pull in that harmonious energy. And yeah, it's in my Feng Shui videos. I think I talk a little bit in some of them about why Feng Shui works, but let me just say here, because this is an astrology video, it really does work, all right? Because your environment has a profound effect on your decision making. When you do things that support your goals, things just go easier. That's everything from losing weight to making more money, to finding a relationship. When your personal environment supports your goals, then you're able to do those things. So, and then when we look at money derived from career, we do have still Saturn there that is causing some restrictions in that area, but Saturn's leaving that house on July 1st, and that is going to give you some relief. So you might be back at your job by then. But this also does say that, it is ruled by that Uranus in the second house, so there may not have been a big interruption for you. And that is that possibly, if you weren't working, you were still getting some income, or you were getting some government support or things like that. So we're not necessarily seeing any interruption. If anything, by a month from now, things will be better for money derived from career. Taurus. All right, Taurus natives, of course, this Gemini Sagittarius eclipse is in your money houses, and so the focus for you is on your finances and looking at how you can make money even in these crazy times that we're living in. The moon part is in your house of investments, and so you may be a little bit more concerned about investments, maybe worried about those. And what I would suggest is that you just put it aside. There's a lot of volatility in 2020. When I talk about Chinese astrology, this is a rat year, and rat years have a lot of volatility. When we get to the ox year in 2021, that is much more about simple, straightforward. It's going to be pretty steady, and while that doesn't bring huge gains, it can actually make people feel calmer. So if that's the issue, then yes, you'll feel better then. But it's a moon in Sagittarius, and a moon in Sagittarius says the more education you have about this, the better you're going to feel. And so that's, consider an online class with your brokerage, or there's so many great videos on YouTube about finances. Find a couple of teachers there that you like. It's all free. You'd be able to gain so much knowledge about what to do. The sun in the second house in Gemini does say that you can bring in money from multiple sources, and so that is an option for you. We'll talk about that when I get to the money part. Let's talk about that T-square up into the 11th house, which is friends and connection. So we have a great need for Taurus natives to connect with your friends. The last couple of months have been hard and we've been isolating, but Taurus can get into a rut. So it is time to make your habits more about connecting with a few people every single day. Reach out to them, say hi, ask them if they're okay. That's going to help you in lots of areas of your life that are even unrelated to that. When we look at your Venus-Mars connection for relationship, there's a lot of focus here on finances, but you can connect with someone on a romantic level, especially if they're known by your friends or if they're through some sort of online connection, because the Mars is in your house of technology. That means, getting on Match.com or Tinder, or one of the many, many, many sites, and that could be a way to meet people. But the Mars is very close to the Neptune, and as I said, the Venus is retrograde. This is not necessarily going to be a long-term situation, so just move cautiously because disappointments can happen. Your innovative thinking is right here because it's recognized by that Uranus in Taurus in your first house. So you are the source of answers, but somebody else seems to be asking you the question. And so if you feel like you, thank you, LaRue. Yes, that's the cat. So if you feel like you want to get some answers, you might want to have a brainstorming session with somebody. You are going to be especially good at answering other people's questions and helping them out. So it's really important to connect with your friends. All right, when we look at your second house this month, it is actually great. It is Venus, Sun, and the North Node there. Now, the Venus is retrograde, which can mean that you get promised $1,000 and you get 500, or you're promised 20 hours and you get 10. There are some disappointments, but then the sun hits, and so then that other $500 or the other 10 hours shows up. So that's really good. But the North Node is going to be going through this house for the next 18 months, and that North Node, your life path, says that you do need to get better at handling your money, and you have this long period to do it. So it says, you know, it's time to start discussing with maybe the relatives you know who have a lot of money. How did they do it? What is their advice? And looking to see how that applies to your life. Reading books on the topic or watching the videos, like we said, also helps. Now, you are pulling money in from the third house, that Mercury. Mercury will be going retrograde pretty soon. So this would be through communication, transportation, selling things, that sort of thing. This is very strong for you, but when Mercury goes retrograde, it is going to have a little hiccup. So you are stronger towards the beginning of this next 4-week period than you are towards the end. So save your money. And also, consider that in the second half of this, you know, when we get to the new moon and that 2 weeks beyond that, that you really want to make phone calls and really connect with your clients and your customers on a very personal level. As we talked a little bit about before, you're doing the moon and the south node in the 8th house for bringing in your investments, and the moon, wherever the moon is, there's worry. And sometimes the worry is understandable. Sometimes it's just, you know, your head just messing with you. And in this case, you know, this moon in Sagittarius, as we talked about, there are going to be some real opportunities if you investigate through education. And so with the Sagittarius energy, it is approaching this as though you're going to teach the topic. Like if you were going to teach your little nephew or niece how to invest, what would you investigate to do that? Or if you were going to teach them how to start a business, what would you tell them? If you are ready to teach it, then you know it. So the South Node does indicate that you could pull things in from past lives, such as knowledge of investing, knowledge of how to handle money. And so this is not just your past life, but your ancestors. So looking back at your ancestors and saying, you know, oh, you know, my great, 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 great grandfather had a huge farm and he did really well. And so therefore, you know, what lessons can I pull forth? Or perhaps you had a past life where you did some exceptional things and now you're in more humble circumstances. You can still pull that knowledge and that information in now that the South Node is going through your 8th house. Now, when we look at your 11th house of money derived from career, we have Mars conjunct Neptune, and that's wonderful because that is more action happening. That would be more hours, more opportunities. We're pulling from this Neptune in Pisces, so whenever we see that very spiritual influence, like with the Sagittarius or with the Pisces, we want to make sure that we're doing the prayers, the meditation, the affirmation, that we are aligning ourselves with the money energy. And so doing all of those things, even for just a couple of minutes a day, is really going to help you secure the job or get back to work or feel motivated when you get there. I mean, if you've had, weeks now where you didn't have to be under a boss's thumb, and now you're back doing that. It may take some spiritual alignment to get back into the flow. Gemini. Okay, Gemini natives, this eclipse is one of the 3 eclipses you'll be experiencing this year that affects your sign directly. And so this is a period of time where you are experiencing more change and more opportunity than most people. So you do want to be awake and aware so you can grab those opportunities. This also means that you really want to have a very clear set of goals that you can not only express to yourself, but that you can express to others, because you are doing this eclipse in the 1-7, and that does indicate that other people directly influence how successful you're going to be, how many opportunities you get. You can put it out to one person, and that person just spreads it energetically. And even just the mere fact of you telling somebody what it is that you want sends it out to the universe itself. And so this is when you speak it, then it happens. But if you don't know what you really want, then nothing gets spoken. When we look at the T-square, you're doing the Mars elevated in your chart. It's right at the top here in your house of career. So we have opportunities for a new job. You are probably going back to your old job. And so, but if you want a new job, you can certainly get it. There are positions where you can elevate yourself. You can rise up. You can do your own business. So this is a very career-focused energy for you. And what it says is, with this eclipse, that's the thing that needs to change. That's the biggest thing that needs to change, is how you are expressing your goals. Do you have your goals, and your career itself? If you're looking for love, you have quite a few opportunities because you're doing the Mars elevated in your chart, so it's very easy for you to find somebody. But the moon in the 7th says you're nervous about meeting people. You're nervous maybe about germs or just people in general. And so it may take something like a communication through online means for you to get past that little nervousness, or maybe you just have to face your fears and go out and meet the people anyway. When we look at your innovative thinking, the Uranus is in the 12th house, and that does indicate that most of this is going to come through intuition and dreams. So like I said in the intro, you definitely want to write down what your question is, write down what the problem is that needs a solution, put that under your pillow or put it on your nightstand so that you are dreaming your answers, and the universe is coming in when you're distracted, either distracted by sleep, or maybe you're on a jog, or maybe you're doing some other repetitive task, and so your brain is actively working on something else, and that's when the inspiration comes. When we take a look at your money, you have Mercury in the 2nd house, and this means that money comes through communication. It comes not just through communicating with others directly, but also affirmations and things like that when you're talking to the universe. This Mercury is pulling money in from your 4th house, so that could be working at home or doing things for real estate purposes, and the 1st house. And that does mean that money comes to you when you put yourself forward, when you put your name on something, when you say, I'm doing this. That's when opportunities and money come to you. Your 2nd house is also pulling money from the 7th house. That means getting money from a spouse, a business partner, or just people that you talk to. Every time you talk to someone, there is a potential that they're going to say, hey, I know of a great job, or yes, I would like to become a client. So you are pulling money directly from that moon. When we look at your house of investments, we have Pluto and Jupiter there. Now, of course, these two have been plaguing your 8th house for a long time. The Jupiter's been wonderful, the Pluto not so much. But what's important is at the end of this month, they are going to be conjunct again for the 2nd time this year. So look back at April and see what you were doing when it came to your finances, because you want to transform that. You want to do something different than that. This is a long aspect. You'll get it again in November. We'll talk about it then. But this is about looking at new ways of doing something, and not some dramatic change, but just subtle, small, incremental changes where maybe you are starting to save money pay down debt, not running out to get one of these crazy consolidation loans with these huge high interest rates, but maybe you try that snowball method where you are just, getting that smallest credit card paid off and going from there, just very, very small steps where you transform your life over a period of the rest of the year. And we look at money derived from career, and we have Chiron there still. Of course, Chiron's going to be there for a long time, and this is about doing something that heals your issues around money derived from career. That is just looking at it differently. If it bothers you that you work for somebody else, maybe there's another way you can look at it, or perhaps you heal yourself by getting out of there and getting your own business going. This does mean that you'll do really well if you're in a healing profession, and that's anything from being a nurse to a massage therapist to a counselor, any of those. If you're helping the world heal in some way, I mean, even bakers, they can help heal us by giving us a good croissant. If you're doing something, some sort of good for the world, you can make money. So that this Chiron's going to be there for a long time. So you're going to hear me talk about it. But what's important is to, if you're not even sure where you need the healing, that's a question to ask, and ask that in that dream state so that you can get that inspired answer. For Cancer natives, this eclipse is falling in your 612, so that is work and health. And so there's more nervousness, though, about work, and so it's possible that you're having to do a service job, and so that you're being called to be out there on the front lines or in situations where maybe you don't feel as safe. And what I would suggest is that you put a shield of protection around yourself. The mask is great, the gloves are great, but you can, through your aura, protect yourself as well by visualizing white light all around you, because when you do that, you actually do create more space between you and somebody else. You create an energy of protection. So consider doing that as you're going out into the world. This is making the square to Mars up in your house of education. So perhaps you're thinking about what's going to happen with school. Maybe you were in school and now it's online school. And online school might be really easy for you to do, or it might be a real challenge to not be around people. Maybe it's just hard to even get excited about it. Or perhaps you're thinking about going back to school and you're looking to see whether you should do some sort of formal program or whether you want to do something that is informal and quick. This is putting an awful lot of pressure on the Mars, which is indicating to me that you need to do a visualization of what's the reason for being in school, why do it, what are you going to gain from it, or is it just kind of a placeholder to say, well, at least I'm doing something and now I don't have to think about anything but school for a couple of years. So consider where it's actually leading you. And then also, if you're not sure of a topic, there's an awful lot of free classes out there. Take a free class over the next month or so to see if you even like the topic. Look for the hardest class that you can in the topic so that you can say, all right, I'm really immersed in this. Am I really excited about it? Or am I just, I'm bored? So when we look at your Venus-Mars connection, it's interesting because the Venus is hidden in the 12th house, and this means that relationships are a bit hidden from you. This could mean that you're having a secret liaison, or more likely you're just texting and not really meeting the person. So if you're looking for love, this isn't your strongest month, but you can find someone through other people, like someone else connects you with the person, and yet it still looks like you're not necessarily making a physical connection just yet. When we look at your innovative thinking, the Mercury is right in the first, and that Uranus is up in the 11th house, and you may be having lots of ideas that can help the world. And it's hard sometimes to implement those, but it's wonderful that you're having them. So make sure that you journal these, write them down. You could use these in the future. But what this does say is go use one of the social media platforms and blast your ideas out there and see if you can get followers for your idea. Who knows, this could snowball into something where you get a whole new career just because of an idea you had. So when we look at your second house, it is pulling money from the sun in the 12th house, and that does indicate that you want to do the more magical, Feng Shui, spiritual things to bring money into your life. It also does say that if you do something medical or spiritual for a living, you have lots and lots of work. You won't have any problem if you were even in the medical field, but you were in that field where it was more elective, and so you weren't working, you're definitely going to be working now. So, but look at what you can do Feng Shui wise, dust off your Feng Shui cures. Check out my other videos on effective Feng Shui cures and how to place those. There's lots of information on those. And as you do that, do affirmations, look at how you speak to yourself about opportunities, and this is going to help you make money. When we look at your investments, we have Saturn up there, which is causing some restrictions. It might feel like, oh, investments are difficult or starting a business is difficult. I don't know. There's so much to think about. This Saturn is going to be moving out of that house at the end of this month, and so that could open up some possibilities. That's just a temporary thing, though. If you miss that window, which is going to be between July and December, then it's gone again, because then Uranus will be back. So it would be better to face this. I said Uranus, I'm in Saturn. This Saturn is there. It's better to face Saturn and say, all right, this is a tall mountain to climb. There is a lot to learn, but I'm just going to learn it one bit at a time, just like hiking a mountain. I'm just going to do it one step at a time. So this is, I suggest to people, like if you're very interested in, say, the stock market, you know, it's not risky necessarily to go buy one share, unless it's Berkshire Hathaway and the share is $100,000. But, you know, just go buy something, one share at a $5 stock or a $10 stock. Because what that does is it causes you to be very interested in what the market is doing. It's just a way to motivate yourself to put something on the line about it. And so, but otherwise you can do paper trading, where you could say, all right, today I'm using my monopoly money to buy, you know, the Berkshire Hathaway stock or whatever. Actually do a stock you would normally buy, and then test to see whether your knowledge and intuition are working in your favor. Then if we look at your money derived from career, we have Uranus there. Uranus is going to be there for a long time. It says that there is changeability in money derived from career, unless you work in a technology field or you work for a large humanitarian organization or some sort of group. This does indicate there's going to be changeable energy in your money. So look for ways that money could vary. That could be commission jobs, or that you have some sort of income tied to bonus. But most of all, it's easiest if you just have a side income, a side hustle that brings in money, especially a passive income source. That would be ideal, because then month to month your money would vary, but and that would use up that energy, and then your career income could be more stable. Leo. All right, Leo natives, you are doing this eclipse in the 5/11. So with the moon down in the 5th house, so this represents children and creativity, and this is where the worry is. This is where the changes are. So this could be some nervousness about, you know, that your kids had some difficulty in school, you know, getting to this online thing, and now they've got a summer where there's no summer camp and all of that. Maybe looking into tutoring. You know, there's great tutoring services like Take Lessons and things like that. So looking at ways you can get them education. And then also it's about your creativity. And, you know, if you're in a rut, you're just watching TV or you're just playing the same video games or whatever, look at, you know, if you want to write a novel or a script, did you want to do some sewing? Did you want to build a deck? You know, it's time for you to do something creative with this energy. Now the sun is up in the 11th house, and that's friends and organizations and humanitarian efforts. So this could be you getting out there through that. There's a lot of great Facebook groups where you can really start to interact with your neighbors. You know, I have been finding there's a lot to declutter still in my house. And so I've been putting things on a Facebook group called Buy Nothing, and then it's based in my town. And so just yesterday, somebody picked up some books. It was wonderful because I saw them go to a good home and I didn't need them anymore. So that was so great. So consider how you can connect with the community. Then when we look at the pressure from Mars, Mars is in your 8th house of investments, passive income sources, and resources from others. So there's a lot of pressure here on like what can you get from others, which is one factor. But the other side of this is, are you allowing other people to help you? You know, Leo, you need that entourage, but sometimes you don't want other people to help you because you want to make sure that you do it your way. So, but allow other people to come in and let the experience be what it is, because other people want to be with you. They want to help you, even if that's virtually helping you. It's just that if you don't let them in, then you can feel very isolated, and then you have to do everything yourself. So, which isn't good. So when we look at your Venus-Mars connection, it's a highly sexual, highly charged energy. So getting some sex this period is quite possible. The Venus is in the 11th. A friendship could turn into a romantic relationship, but it's retrograde, and so turning it back into a friendship may be challenging, so keep an eye on that. When we look at your Uranus-Mercury connection, the Uranus is up in the house of career. So the innovative thinking is about how you do business and how you interact with people in your career. This could mean that your company is changing. So, you know, all of this that's happening has exposed weaknesses in companies and in industries that maybe they were covering up. Maybe you knew already that your industry was on the way out. You know, we see this with some of the retail chains. This is that you need to look at innovative thinking of how else you can do the business that you want to do and make the kind of money that you want to make through other means. So this is to actually, you know, go out onto your porch, onto your balcony, and look up at the stars at night and say to the universe, okay, I need an idea. Here's my problem. Write down your problem and send that message out to the universe. That's where you're going to get the answers. Now, when we look at your money, you are pulling money from Mercury, and Mercury's in the 12th house. So you're going to hear me say what I just said before to the Cancer natives. You are pulling money through magical means. That is looking at your Feng Shui cures, affirmations, meditation, candle lighting, and all of that. You know, you're Leo, so lighting a metallic gold candle make you happy anyway. And metallic gold brings large sums of money, so you might as well do it. So, or if you don't feel comfortable lighting candles, put stacks of coins on your windowsills. That's a great feng shui cure for making sure that money is always flowing into the house. There's more information about that in my videos on feng shui. Now, when we look at your investments, we have Mars and Neptune in your 8th house. That does indicate that you can do a lot of investment activity, that you need to open up your statements, you need to look at these and really meditate on what's the direction going. When you go out there into the internet, you're going to find opinions on both sides, and probably 50-50. You know, gold's going to go to 30,000, gold's going to go to $2, you know, which is it? So you need to kind of follow your heart and as you collect all this information, because intuition is best when you take in the information and then your intuition is what sifts out the information and brings you the answer. So this is not just following your gut blindly. This is first collect the information, like listen to both sides of the argument and then sleep on it. When we look at money derived from career, you have many opportunities. Some opportunity that had passed you by before now comes back with the Venus retrograde. The sun is up there too, and now the North Node as well. So you have multiple opportunities for income from career. That means you could get a new job, you could get a second job, you could get a transfer, you could get a new team. So, but energy is quite good in this area. Virgo. Virgo natives, you guys are doing the 410 axis for your eclipse. The moon is in the 4th, and so the concern or worry that we see is about home and family. And so there may be issues, of course, around health with the pandemic going on. You might be concerned about paying your mortgage and things like that. But the Mars trigger point here is in the 7th house, which says that all the solutions lie in connecting with other people and letting other people know what the issues are. So when you talk to other people, you will be able to pull in the help you need. And sometimes that's hard to do. Sometimes you want to say, oh, I'm independent. Remember, we talked about those eclipses, about being independent and self-reliant. But also these fixed stars indicated cooperation was the way to go. So with this T-square, you really want to focus on that. Additionally, you want to talk about this at your career. Talk about this with your boss and your coworkers. Let them know what's really going on at home so you can get help in this area. Now, this also does say that a new career is quite possible, a new job. It is based on that Mars in the 7th house, so that's reaching out to hiring managers, headhunters, or colleagues that have moved on to other positions. You can really find something that works for you. A new job or a second job is quite possible this month and next month for you. When we look at your dating, dating is extremely strong here because we have Venus elevated in your chart, so you're looking really good. And the Mars is in the 7th house, and that's your house of relationships. So if you're looking for love, this is the time to put yourself out on social media and on dating sites to say, I'm looking for love, because you have a really strong opportunity to find it. Now, if you're already in an existing relationship, this is great because this relationship can get better and better. This is about that you're almost psychically understanding your partner more and more. Don't get caught up in the little things that bug you about them, but really focus on gratitude and the things that you enjoy about this person. And as they do the same, this relationship will get really wonderful. When we look at your innovative thinking, it's interesting because it is about looking at what the masses believe and thinking maybe something different is the truth. And so this is about questioning dogma, questioning authority, breaking the rules, and even breaking your own rules. And that is if you have specific things that you identify yourself as, if you say, well, I'm not a jogger. Well, break the rule and go jogging, and you might fall in love with it. If you say to yourself, I'm not good with handling money, look at your chart and see if that's really true. It's amazing that sometimes we get an idea in our head that actually came from somewhere else. It doesn't have any basis in reality, and we don't see it in the chart. And that is because they've taken on information from an outside source. So this is to take a look at your belief system, and if something is not working for you, to really question it. Now, when we look at your money, you are pulling money right from the 10th house. That is fantastic. That is pulling money in as people see you, as you are noticed. Now, the Venus is retrograde, so there is some delays on payment. That could be that you're putting something out there, but you're not going to get paid for 60 days, or that you've just taken a new job, and so they're holding back the first paycheck or something like that. Not to worry about that. You can make money in lots of different sources from this because Venus is in Gemini, and that's wonderful. That's multiple sources of money. When we look at your investments, you have the Chiron there, which it's a long aspect. Okay, so the healing process is a long thing, but it does say to look at why you're not investing, why you're not saving, why you're racking up credit card debt. If you're doing any of those things, there is some sort of wound that happened in the past that is causing you to repeat this behavior, and you have to heal that wound. And that could be, you know, maybe you got burned on, you purchased some stock and the stock went down, but have you really looked at what your decision-making process was in buying and selling that stock? If you continually run up debt, what is the wound that you have? Maybe it's a feeling of loneliness, or that, you know, you want some sort of present in your life. You feel you deserve something. What is it that's causing you to spend when you don't have it? So look to heal those wounds, and you could be truly successful. When we look at your money derived from career, we have Mercury there. So especially jobs involving communication, real estate, anything in sales, all of that will do very, very well. The Mercury does say that money is coming in, which is really good. So I don't think you're going to have problems with that. If you are not working now, your job will get reinstated, or you'll find something else. Libra. Okay, Libra natives, you are doing this eclipse in the 3-9, so that is about belief systems, about education, about communication, how you are expressing yourself, and this is about changing how you're doing that. So this is about stepping back and looking at how you communicate with others. You know, I'm thinking about doing some videos on the magic of communication, how we can get people to communicate with us, and how we can do it better. If you're interested in that, leave me a comment in the comment section below, so you'll motivate me to get that done. Now, when we look at this, Mars is putting pressure from the 6th house, and that is saying, what is your daily routines? What routines need to be changed? Where are you really bogging yourself down? Where are you overworking? Where are you doing too much? And where are you not taking care maybe of your health and well-being? Where are you not pausing to take a little bit of a breather? You know, with your chart, you show lots and lots of opportunities for education as well as work, and that means you might be doing both, and that can be difficult if you are trying to fit a lot of things in. Conversely, you might be doing the other side of that pendulum swing where you are doing nothing, that you're just sitting around like a big lump, and you're starting to feel guilty from that. And so that is with this Mars and Pisces, that you just have to start to sort of morph over into the office and start sitting at your desk a little bit, maybe getting dressed and ready to go, so that you can start to get back into that routine. When we look at love relationships, the Mars is in the 6th house, and so we're thinking that there's not a lot of time in your schedule, or you're not seeming to put love in there, but love is still possible because the Venus is very high up in your chart. So this is if you reach out to people, especially people you've known from school or some sort of education sort of setting, also from spiritual settings such as church or yoga groups or things like that, you can find some interesting prospects for love. Yes, indeed. When we look at your genius and problem-solving combination is Mercury in the 10th house, very elevated with that Uranus in the 8th. This is a lot of different money-making ideas that can come to you. This is also different ideas that you have about accessing maybe benefits that are government-based or benefits that are company-based, so that you can start to bring in some more prosperity for yourself. This also is problem-solving when it comes to intimacy in relationship. And so look at that. If you're having some issues in that area, this is a time where you can solve some of those problems. Now, your money is co-ruled by Pluto and Mars, and so Pluto is in the 4th house, and that indicates working at home, bringing in money from a home business or real estate. Mars is in the 6th house. That's directly tied to your house of work. That is, as you put the work in, the money is coming in, but you do want to find a way to increase your per hour wage. That's the key. If you're somebody who trades time for money, you always want to be thinking about how you can make more per hour. And that is either finding ways to automate, delegate, or to bring more value to people. That's what brings your income up. When we look at your investments, they are very changeable with the Uranus in Taurus there. Uranus is going to be there for a long time, so there's going to be a lot of volatility there. That means if you want to make money through investing, you're going to have to be very active in trading. This also says when it comes to credit card debt, there could be some changes the credit card company is making to your terms and conditions without necessarily you knowing about it. So keep an eye out for that, because that can throw off some of your planning. And when it just comes from resources from others, money can pop out of nowhere. Windfalls can happen while Uranus is in your 8th house. So what you want to do is make sure that you're making yourself available for those windfalls. And that could be, throwing your hat into the ring for a new job opportunity, as well as, the occasional lottery ticket. When it comes to money from career, you're pulling money from your 9th house, and that is the more education you have, the better. Or if you're teaching, writing, doing any sort of spiritual work, that's all good for your money from career. You also show that maybe some sort of certification or licensing is needed. That's something that you could take care of over this next period. That would be very helpful for bringing in more money. But you do show right now that money could come from multiple sources, and the sun is quite elevated. So if you hadn't been working up until this point, it looks like you will be working going forward. Scorpio. Scorpio natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in the 2/8. That means it's very focused on your finances as well as self-worth and your sense of deserving. And that directly ties to how much money you're making. If you feel you deserve it, you can see the opportunities to get it. If you are questioning whether you deserve it, then it can be very challenging for you to go through the open doors that are there that would allow you to make the money that you want. Now, when we look at the position of Mars, we find it in the house of risk-taking and also in just having fun. And this is about looking for money sources that you truly enjoy. And maybe it pulls you a little outside your comfort zone. Maybe it does mean that you'll be posting on YouTube or, setting up a Facebook Live event, or, doing things where you're putting your art or your creative ideas out there, which people may judge, but you need to do that and take that risk so that you could open up new sources and ways of making money. Now, this also is in your house of children, and this does say that your fertility energy is quite high right now. So it's necessary for you to focus on if that's what you want. If that's not what you want, you do want to take some precautions. Of course, that does include pets. And so if you want to add to your life a pet or two, that is showing up as a possibility. When we look at your dating possibilities, oh my gosh, they are through the roof. Venus is in your house of sex and Mars is in your house of love and romance. So yes, you can definitely find somebody who is very, very compatible and a good match. So that means you do want to go out and do some online connections and find some people to meet. Ask friends and family to help you meet somebody, because this is one of the best aspects you're going to have all year. Then when we look at your innovative thinking, it's interesting because it really gets stimulated when you talk to someone else. So when you have problems to solve, the Uranus is in the 7th house. It says reach out to somebody that you know and say, let me bounce some ideas off of you, or give me some ideas, but understand I might not take your advice. I just want to hear some different ideas. So find someone who's not going to be offended when you don't do what they say. Scorpio natives, you guys get very focused on controlling what you want to do, but it's sometimes good to hear somebody say, well, I think you should go be an airline pilot. And that's the thing that causes you to say, oh, you know what? I want to be a scuba instructor. It's something that because they said one thing, maybe you went to the opposite, but still it caused an idea to happen. When we look at your money, we have the moon there, and that is our point of worry. And so you do show there is a possibility that you are worried about money this month. And that's reasonable to have a month during the course of the year where you look at your pennies and go, ooh, you know, things are kind of tight. You do want to look at your resources because the Sun and Venus are up there in your house of resources. So perhaps you can borrow some money, you can get a short-term loan, maybe you look at your stockpile and say, you know, I don't necessarily need to go to the grocery store. Yes, it's going to be peanut butter and jelly for a while, but that's okay. Now, that said, you are pulling money in from that Jupiter, and that Jupiter in the third house says sales, communication, and transportation. It says that there's actually lots of ways for you to make money. So don't give yourself worries for no reason. Recognize that sometimes there's a legitimate reason to be concerned, and sometimes it is because you watched a little too much news and you have now got this idea that everything is collapsing. So, and while things are definitely stressful out there, there are so many money opportunities also. So consider that there is much more opportunities for making money than there actually ever has been before. Now, when we look at your house of investments, passive income, making money through a partnership, or making money through your own business, my gosh, your house is incredibly golden. It's beautiful. Venus, Sun, and the North Node there. This means that if you've been wanting to transfer into your own business, this is the time. Start to look at the simple things you could do. This is Gemini energy. So this is what's the smallest little step that I can take. You know, so it's not about, you know, going out and investing in some big education course or getting, you know, monogram stationery or anything like that. It's just go find a customer and say, this is what I'm thinking of doing. And if they say no, go get in, you know, go to the next person, and next person, next person, and just start that way. If you're wanting to, you know, sell something online, just put one thing up. You know, you don't have to worry that the store is perfect yet. Just start. So when we look at your money derived from career, that is pulling directly from the Mercury in the 9th house. So that does say that you may have to learn something new to continue making money through your career. Perhaps your company is automating, or perhaps you just got a new job and so there's a learning curve. If, though, you are in teaching, writing, publishing, or anything spiritual, this is really good energy for you making money through your career. Sagittarius. Okay, Sagittarius natives, this is your eclipse. This signals a need to make some sort of change over the next few months. You may have already noticed what this change is. Perhaps it is, you know, your home, your relationship, your job. And maybe it's just because your life has been so disrupted by everything that's been going on. You've decided that you don't want to go back to the life you had before. But now you will have doors close on you, preventing you from going backwards, and you will need to move forward. And while this sounds scary, this is not that unusual a period for you. You did this 9 years ago. You did this 18 years ago. You did this 27 years ago, if you're old enough for that. Or if you're like me, you've done it multiple times. So you know this energy. It is just that the universe wants you to move forward. Try not to get focused on staying put. That's what's important. Now, the Mars is in your 4th house, and so this may involve your family, the changes that you're making. Perhaps your family saying, no, just stick with what you know, or stay home when you want to go out into the world. You know, it's just, there's some challenges here with home and family, but there's also big opportunities. And maybe that's getting into real estate, flipping houses, getting a roommate. It is also about creating a home office or a business at home. So there is all of these opportunities at home. Maybe it is that you with some relatives get together so that you can save on housing costs because you're living together in a community. When we look at your relationship options, it is very good. Venus is in the 7th house. That is your house of relationships, and it's pulling it directly into your house. And so it is possible to meet someone that you would eventually live with or get married to. This is a really good time for you to tell your friends and your family that you're interested in dating, because they can help you find someone. This is also more than one opportunity. So you could possibly get more than one person you're interested in and need to decide between two people. So yeah, you should keep us all posted about that, because that could be very juicy. When it comes to your innovative thinking, it's interesting because we are pulling from the resources of others and your house of work and health. So some of this is coming up with different ways to help your health and your well-being, but in an innovative way. You know, perhaps you're doing yoga on your staircase in the house, or maybe you are taking walks, but later in the evening, so you're not running into so many people. Maybe you're discovering the joy of walking. Also, this is about how you do your daily routine and working and changing those up, and what are the problems that you're running into about, you know, how you're filming your videos, how you're doing your video conferencing. So those are the types of things, but mostly what this is talking about is looking at your habits and what are the triggers of those habits, and breaking the triggers so that you're not in negative habits. So if, for example, and this is more of a feng shui thing, so I'll do it really quick, but if you walk into your place and first thing you see is a giant TV, you are likely to spend a lot of time watching TV because it sets the tone in your place. But if you walk into your place and you see this altar that has representations of all your goals on there, then you're more likely to work on things to achieve your goals. So remember, your environment really sets the tone for your decision making, and decisions then promote the actions. So this is something where you're going to look at what your routines are and see what needs to be changed. Now, when we look at your money, you're doing Pluto and Jupiter in your 2nd house. And of course, you've been doing Pluto and Jupiter for some time, but they're going to do a conjunction for the 2nd time at the end of this month. That means that you have this deep desire, perhaps, of making a lot of money. Excuse me. And so you really want to focus on what it is that you need to do. This shouldn't just be a wish. This should be something that's actionable. Now, you are also pulling money in from your 3rd house. That's communication, transportation, selling things, all of that. So you do have multiple sources where you can be bringing money in. And it's the Saturn in Aquarius, so it does look at what you can automate and what you can delegate. Now, when we look at your house of investments, we have Mercury up there, which means you may receive some new information about what to invest in, or how to deal with credit card debt or student loan debt or things like that. This is a very good placement, so keep your ears open for new information, because it's going to help in your decision making. When we look at money derived from career, you are pulling money in from your 7th house. That means if you need a new job, you need to go to people that you know, maybe out on LinkedIn, maybe out on Facebook, and say, I need some help, I need some connections. This is also about emailing the hiring manager, or creating a relationship with people who work at the company you want to work for, so that you can get that little door open for you. But it definitely says that money is coming in, especially if you work in counseling, if you work in consulting, if you work in any legal field, anything where you normally do one-on-one. Maybe it's going to still be video conferencing for a while, but you are going to be making money. Capricorn. All right, Capricorn natives, you are doing this eclipse in your 6/12, and the 12th house is your hidden house. And that's interesting because this can be undefined fears, that you think something worse is going to happen. All right, some terrible things have already happened, and now you're thinking, okay, what other worse things can happen? And you might even going out and looking at videos where people are saying worse things are going to happen, and it's time for you to pull back, because actually what this is you have a direct connection to the universe with this eclipse. That is, you can get help and assistance more readily. You can find ways that you can get information in through dreams, through your intuition, through tarot cards or other modalities. So you need to give yourself a daily spiritual practice, perhaps where you're doing a meditation, lighting candles, or doing a nature walk or something like that, so you can really tap into this energy. Now, interestingly enough, the Mars is in your third house of communication, so that talks about journaling and writing. And also, if you're not ready to journal, I mean, at least, talk some of your feelings into your voice recognition, send yourself an email, like talking it in and then reading that over and seeing if you're getting some insights from that. This also says, of course, talking it through with trusted friends and others. Look for somebody who's encouraging or who's not going to give their opinions, who's just going to nod and say, well, that's interesting, because that will help you really find out what's going on with you. Now, the sun in the sixth house also says, take a look at your daily routines, change up your schedule, look at how you approach your day. If your day just seems to disappear on you, is everything on your schedule? I mean, you can do block scheduling. You can do things where you can put even the fun things into your Google Calendar so that you know, okay, that's enough work. Now I'm going to have some fun, rather than just letting the day get away from you. When we look at your relationships, you are doing the Venus in the sixth house and the Mars in the third house. So communication is strong, but the Venus in the sixth says, I'd rather be working, or I'm too busy, or things like that. So this is more about finding somebody just to text with or email with. Maybe you're not meeting yet, but you're still taking the baby steps to that. And so look at how you can reach out maybe to many people if you're looking for love, and start some conversations and see which conversations take off, because when this energy shifts, then you will be ready to meet in person. And when we look at your innovative thinking, what we have is seventh house coming to the fifth house of risk taking. And that means that when you talk to friends and family, bounce big ideas off of them and then see where the calculated risks fit in. So you might come to them and say, oh, okay, I'm going to redo my entire career. And they'll say, no, oh my goodness, no. And then you can come back and kind of pull back and say, okay, which parts of that do I want to do? And which parts of that should I just wait on or discard entirely? So innovative thinking comes from that. Innovative thinking also comes when you're doing something enjoyable. That is when you go out and play, when you play a game, when you're with your kids, when you do things like that. Innovative ideas will come to you, and then give yourself a little text memo so that you remember it, or write it on a piece of paper, old-fashioned way, and so that you remember it when you do have time to consider it. When we look at your money, we have Saturn in that house, and that Saturn is saying, all right, money is challenging, but remember what I always say, Saturn is a slow growth wealth aspect. That is that maybe now you are actually putting a little bit more aside, even if it's $1 here and $10 there, that's enough that is going to grow. So you might also be looking at, perhaps I don't need the fanciest coffee, or I don't need, another lamp. And so you are conserving that way. So Saturn is going to be traveling out of this house on July 1st. And so you do recognize that it's not going to be back until 2021. So you only have this month really to get on this more frugal budget and have that energy then carry you through the rest of the year. It would be a pity to waste this month and then have to start over in 2021. So set up the habits now. That would be great. Your second house is pulling money from your fifth house, which is activities that you enjoy, creative activities, and also a little bit of risk taking. So this says you can make money through your art, design, music, writing, singing, dancing, all of these things. Do something that you love and the money will follow. So, and I'm going to be saying this to you again and again, you must put your creative work out there, even if you don't feel you're ready, even risking that somebody's going to say they don't like it. You need to express yourself. When we look at money derived from career, when we look at your investments, I almost skipped one. When we look at your investments, it is pulling money from your 6th house. This means to look at your investments almost on a daily basis because you may have to make changes. So this is open up your statements, but actually go in and maybe set up alerts so that you can know that your credit limits, that you know, like if a stock starts to drop, maybe you have a sell stop in place so it automatically sells. And also make it a daily practice to start to look for additional investments. I mean, it's mind-blowing how many different derivative type of investments there are. I went to a little real estate meetup group back when we could go to meetup groups, and the guy put on the board 15 different ways of investing in real estate. I only knew 2 of them, and I thought I knew something about real estate. My mind was blown. So consider there are so many ways for you to make money, and you're going to find several that you resonate with if you explore it. When we look at your money derived from career, it is co-ruled by the Pluto and the Mars. So Pluto is in the 1st house, so that is putting yourself forward, putting your name on something that brings you money, where you say to the boss, I'll be in charge of the team, or I'll take lead on this project. And then it's ruled by that Mars in the 3rd, so writing and teaching and all of that. It does indicate that a contract for employment is probably coming in, so that's some good news. That will give you another source of income. Maybe that's a 2nd job, or maybe you're changing jobs entirely. Aquarius. All right, Aquarius natives, you guys are doing this eclipse in your 5/11 with the moon up in the 11th house. And so where your worries is about your friends, but you're also worried about the world in general, which is really kind of you. We appreciate it so much. So this does indicate that you could have worries that the society is tipping over the edge. And while there are certainly parts of society that are doing very poorly, it's not everywhere. There are still going to be pockets of opportunity, hope, joy, all of these things, because in crises, we do come together, we find the best in ourselves. And so focus on those things. This is not just the house of the future, it's the house of hopes and dreams. So that's where you need to put your energy, and not just the hope for yourself, but instilling hope in others. When we look at the Mars and where the pressure point is, it is in your house of money. This is for you to start to really brainstorm and think of different ways for you to make money, especially creatively, because the sun is in your house of creativity, to look for ways that you can make money that are things that you truly enjoy, that really help you spiritually, that make you feel like you're helping the world, and do those things. And you might not be able to step into those immediately, but this is an aspect you could be feeling for up to 6 months. And so over the next 6 months, opportunities and doors will open. And then with that sun in the 5th house, the question is, do you have the courage to step through the door? And so you do that by visualizing yourself going through the door before the door opens. So this is first brainstorming on maybe ways to make money through your art, maybe ways to make money through community, maybe ways to make money through helping children. So looking at these different sources and finding also that sense of self-worth, that value of self, because that's also Mars in the 2nd, is when you feel you deserve something, then opportunities come in. You know, that point of deserving may not be something that society says. You know, society may say that person doesn't deserve, but if the person themselves feels they deserve it, then their eyes are open and they can see opportunities. So find that point in yourself where you recognize that you deserve just as much as anybody else in this universe, and then universal abundance can come to you. When we look at your dating looks pretty good because we have Venus in that 5th house of love and romance, making the square of that Mars in the 2nd house. So back to deserving. If you feel you deserve a great partner, poof, one appears. So you have some opportunities. So look at online dating, getting your profile up, as well as talking to your friends and family about introducing you to people. Go out on social media and see who you can meet there as well. When we look at your innovative thinking, it's interesting because it focuses on home and family. So, and sometimes we don't find innovative thoughts at home, but if we ask new questions, we get new answers. So look at the questions you've been asking maybe your spouse or maybe your family members about how to, make more money or have more fulfillment or just how to connect, and see if together you don't come up with some amazing answers. Now, when we look at your money in general, you have Mars and Neptune in the second house, so you're very actively looking at money. That's great, but it is in Pisces, and that means you must do the spiritual things to get that door to open. So that is, as we've said before, candles, incense, look at gemstones. Citrine is a stone that I like a lot for money. Citrine, yes. So look at what you can do to add something tangible where you could focus on it, where you could hold this in your hand and do your affirmations every morning, where you could do your visualization as this is a point of focus for you. Doing the Feng Shui, of course, and then also clearing yourself out of blocks. So look at the tapping and the EMDR and the hypnosis and things like that so that you can clear yourself of blocks. Your second house is also pulling money directly from that Neptune, so we would expect things like working in entertainment, anything where you are doing something medical, and spiritual businesses are going to bring in the most money. Now, when we look at your investments, you're pulling money from Mercury in the 6th. So this is, again, that idea of if you do it on a daily basis, then you have opportunities. If you look at taking small steps, then you get opportunities. It is maybe checking credit card and bank balances every single day to make sure that you're on top of things, that you notice if rates change or opportunities come up. Look at investments every single day and say, all right, I'm going to keep an eye on this stock for a month or two and then make my investment. When we look at money derived from career, you have the moon up there, and so there is some worry that maybe you have been working and now it looks tenuous, or perhaps it looks like you're not going back to that. It is pulling money from that Jupiter in the 12th. So again, we have the spiritual that says, do the prayer, do the meditation, and then opportunities will open up. This does say that your income from career is protected still for a little longer. That might be some sort of government money you're getting, or maybe you are getting still a little bit from your job, but it's not going to last forever. And so that does indicate that you need to start to do the spiritual so you can expand your money possibilities. Pisces. All right, Pisces natives, you guys are doing the eclipse in the 410 with the moon in the 10th house, which indicates that the nervousness or concern is with career. And it could be not just your job, but the entire industry is threatened. And that means you have to start doing some thinking about this. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to disappear immediately, but it could be quite soon. And so you want to have some sort of backup. And that backup comes first at home. That is, who, as you gather with family, as you gather with close friends, you can find support there. And I don't necessarily mean a physical gathering, of course. You can just phone up your friends and say, oh, I work in the retail industry and I'm not sure this job's going to be there. And they'll say, yes, we're not sure that it's going to be there either. But look, you have talents here and here and here. Why don't you look into this? We can help you with a resume. We can give you the support you need for calling up these people and getting an interview. And when we look at where your pressure point is, it's Mars in the first house, so it does come to you. It says you're the source of this ability, and it's in Pisces. That means spiritual source. So Mars is in your sign. That means you know how to take this action and energy. Look, Pisces, your gift is that you can dissolve boundaries between you and other things. So as you visualize yourself getting the call from Google, doing the interview, getting the job, etc., or Amazon or any of these other places, the wall between you and that company dissolves. It goes away and you flow into the job. So visualization, positive visualization, is very important for you, as well as the magic, as well as, going out to your front porch and shaking out your welcome mats, and sweeping your porch and saying, I'm ready to welcome new opportunities. That Mars in the first does say that the most of this energy is on you, that other people can support and encourage you, but you cannot wait for other people. You need to take the action. If someone's not calling you back, you need to call them again. If they don't call you back, you call them a third time, etc. Now, when we look at your love relationships look very good, as it's Mars square Venus, and the Mars is in the first house, so it's very active, but the Venus is in the fourth, so this could be somebody that you've dated before. Perhaps an old relationship is coming back. You may also feel like that you need to stay with home and family and not venture out. That's okay. You can still text, you can still reach out and contact someone, but maybe do some real meeting of the person or get really involved in this next month, not so much this month. When we look at your innovative thinking, it is interesting because we're connecting creativity with communication. And the bottom line is how you speak to yourself gives you the ability to solve problems or not. So if you are always negative and down on yourself, if you're always telling yourself that you made a mistake and that you shouldn't have, or you should do this, you shouldn't do that, you are blocking all of the opportunities. So just for this month, at least, just stop doing that. But instead, say to yourself, you know what? I've come up with creative ideas in the past. I will come up with creative ideas in the future. I've come up with solutions in the past. I will come up with solutions in the future. If you remove that block, the flood of ideas and solutions that come to you will be mind-blowing. So please, please be kind to yourself in your own brain. When we look at your money, we have Chiron here in your second house. It's going to be there for a long time. This is you healing how you handle money. So if you have money issues, but you don't balance your checkbook, if you don't turn in your taxes on time, if you don't keep good records, this is how you heal this energy. But this is also about healing the sense of worthiness. If you feel unworthy of making $100 an hour, $200 an hour. If you feel unworthy making $25 an hour, that's something that has to heal inside of you. And you do that by reframing that information, by challenging those beliefs, by asking yourself where you got that belief in the first place. Steve Jobs, before he left this planet, was making $78,000 a minute. He did not have problems with deserving. So there is a lot of space between minimum wage and $78,000 a minute. You can find yourself on that scale somewhere. So Pisces natives, you are pulling money from your first house. That is the Mars in Pisces. That means when you put your name on it, money comes to you. So that is you. Raise your hand to say, I'll lead the team. I'll initiate the project. I'll be in charge of this. Whatever you're in charge of, that's what will happen. So you might have delegated things to a lot of people, and that's wonderful, but you need to step in and do a little bit more managing, not micromanaging, but just notice what they're doing to make sure everything's on track. When we look at your When we look at your investing, you're pulling money right from the fourth house. That could be real estate, a home business, also investments that deal with property and things like that. So there are some opportunities there. This is the Venus retrograde, so it does say there's some delays in payment, that maybe investments that started to go up are now doing a pullback. You may have to wait until Venus goes direct before you really pull the trigger on this. It also says that you do have some time to do some extra research on that, or ask more people about something that you're planning to get into. When we look at your money derived from career, we have Jupiter and Pluto coming together for the second time at the end of the month. This shows great opportunities and ambition for you to say, not just that you want to jump up one level at your company, but maybe you want to go be the CEO. Maybe you want to really reach for a higher position. This is about unbridled ambition, and that's what you need to take off with, is what is your biggest goals? What is your out of the box, wild and crazy goals? And now start to talk about that and see who you can gather to help you do that. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe. Please give it a thumbs up. Leave me any questions in the comment section below. If you haven't already, you still have more than half a year for my book, Chinese Astrology 2020, Year of the Metal Rat. I know that it's Chinese astrology and you're watching a Western astrology video, but still Chinese astrology has a lot to offer us when it tells us about the energy of the year. And in that book, I do have monthly predictions. I do have Feng Shui cures, lots and lots of interesting stuff. Additionally, I am going to start doing some classes online, so let me know if you're interested. Send me an email or put a comment in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.